I was cleaning up my small kitchen in Portland when my phone buzzed. A text from my mother: "Honey, I need to stay with you for a while." Just 6 words, but my stomach dropped. For almost 30 years, Mom had always chosen my brother, Lucas, first. If she needed help, she went to him. If he had a problem, she showed up immediately. If I had one, she usually said, "You can handle it on your own." So when she texted me instead of Lucas, I knew something wasn't right. I replied, "Why don't you go to Lucas's place?" She read it, didn't answer for almost 2 minutes, then sent a single sentence: "I can't. I'll explain when I get there." The way she typed that made my skin prickle. Mom was never good at hiding things, except when it involved Lucas. Growing up, she shielded him from every consequence, even when he hurt me. Every time he broke something, yelled, or made me cry, she defended him and told me I was too sensitive. I looked around my small apartment, the little piece I had worked years to build, and the fact that she wanted to move in without explaining anything pressed on my chest. I called her. She picked up, voice shaky, trying to hold herself together. When I asked again, she only said, "I'm on my way. I need to tell you in person." I hung up and leaned against the fridge, that uneasy feeling rising slowly. Memories from childhood, Mom always choosing Lucas, always protecting him, came flooding back. I knew the explanation wouldn't be easy. What I didn't know was that the truth behind her lifelong favoritism had been sitting under the surface for decades, waiting to come out. I grew up in a small town about an hour outside Portland. One of those places where everyone minds their own business, neighbors have known each other forever, and family issues are quietly swept under the rug. In our old wooden house, I learned early that Lucas was the center of everything. The mood of the whole house depended on him, his feelings, his temper, his wants, and especially his outbursts. I didn't fully understand it as a kid, but I knew every decision revolved around keeping Lucas from exploding. When I was 7 and Lucas was 10, he smashed my first swimming trophy because it was in his way. I cried, but Mom rushed over only to wipe my face and say softly, "He didn't mean to. He's having a hard time at school. Don't make things worse." I never knew what hard time meant. It was just the excuse for everything he did. If he broke things, skipped class, snapped at people, Mom covered it with, "He's going through something." If I reacted even slightly, she told me, "Don't put pressure on your brother." I can't remember a time in my childhood when I came first. When I wanted to join swim lessons, Mom said we couldn't afford it, but weeks later she signed Lucas up for basketball, which cost twice as much. When I was upset over a bad math grade, she told me to look it over. But when Lucas struggled, she took half a day off work to meet his teacher and insisted he was overwhelmed. By the time I was 18, Mom said Lucas needed space to stabilize, and I had to move into my aunt's house for a few months. I got used to being pushed aside. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked what I needed. So when Mom suddenly wanted to stay with me, not him, I knew something had shifted. And not in a good way. When I moved to Portland for community college, I nearly disappeared from the household dynamic. Mom rarely checked in unless it concerned Lucas. I built my own life, my room, my part-time job, my classes. I liked the quiet. I liked not living in the wake of Lucas's moods. But the inequality didn't disappear, it just went silent. Every holiday I went home, Mom's attention drifted to Lucas. Even when I talked, she watched him to make sure he wasn't annoyed. When I shared something I achieved, she complimented me briefly, then turned to Lucas, "And what about you?" I became a guest in my own family. So her text asking to move in was confusing. For Mom to break her lifelong habit of choosing Lucas first, something serious had to be going on. And I was right, just not in the way I expected. Mom arrived that gray afternoon with just one worn-out silver suitcase, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She sat on the sofa, hands twisting the loose thread on her sleeve, ignoring the tea I'd made. The silence stretched tight between us. I knew I had to ask, but the answer felt like something that could crack open the life I'd carefully built. I finally said, "Mom, what happened with Lucas?" She scanned the room as if searching for a place to hide her thoughts. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin. I can't stay at Lucas's place anymore. I waited, but she didn't continue. I had to press. What does that mean? Did you two argue? Or? She clasped her hands tighter, nails digging into her palms. After a long shaky breath, she said, Lucas lost his job. He's been behind on payments for months. I tried helping, but I can't keep up. That didn't surprise me. Lucas always struggled to manage anything on his own. But it wasn't enough to explain why she'd left him. Mom, did you leave because of the money? She shook her head, eyes avoiding mine. Not just the money. Another long pause. Then, I used my savings to help him. All of it. And now I can't afford my share of the rent there. The landlord is raising the price, and when Lucas heard, she swallowed hard. He got angry. Really angry. Yelling. Breaking things. I left before it got worse. A cold heaviness settled in my stomach. So, you left because you were scared? She didn't answer with words, just lowered her eyes. And that said enough. But the part that truly hurt wasn't Lucas's anger. It was Mom's next request. I was hoping you could help him. Just one last time. Something inside me dropped. Help him how? Give him money? She nodded. You're stable. You have a job, a home, a life. You can help. I stared at her. For 30 years I believed Mom favored Lucas because she loved him more. Now I realized she expected me to fix what she could no longer carry. Mom. I've taken care of myself my whole life. Lucas messes up and you run to save him every time. You spent your entire savings on him. And now you want me to step in? She didn't seem to understand the weight of what she was asking. She only said, he's your brother. Family helps each other. I laughed, dry, empty. Who exactly is my family helping? She had no answer. Right then I understood. Mom didn't come to me for shelter. She came looking for someone to replace her as Lucas's safety net. For the first time, I said clearly enough that she couldn't look away. If you're here because you need space from Lucas, I get it. But if you're here so I can clean up after him, I won't. Mom lowered her eyes. And I realized, this was just the beginning. That night, the apartment sank into a strange kind of silence, not tense, not angry, just full of words waiting to be spoken. Mom sat on the sofa, picking at the hem of her sleeve, and I stood in the kitchen pretending to tidy things that were already clean. Around 9, Mom finally said quietly, "Can you sit down?" I sat across from her. She took a slow breath and said something I had never heard in 30 years, "I know. I haven't treated you and Lucas fairly." I didn't reply. I waited. Mom stared at her hands. I didn't defend Lucas because he was right. I defended him because I was afraid. The word afraid coming from her didn't make sense at first. Mom wasn't a fearful person, at least I never thought she was. I asked softly, "Afraid of what?" She hesitated for so long that I felt the room shift around us. Then she said, "Afraid that Lucas would turn out like your father." My whole body went cold. She never talked about my dad like that. He left when I was in middle school. Mom simply said, "We weren't a match." We never talked deeper. She continued, "Your father was like Lucas when he was young. Angry. Uncontrolled. Explosive over the smallest things. I spent years waiting for the next outburst." Her voice shook. The fear was still inside her. When Lucas grew older, he became just like him. I thought if I didn't keep him calm, if I didn't give him what he wanted, he would become another version of your father. It hit me slowly, painfully. Mom wasn't choosing Lucas because she loved him more. She was choosing him because she feared losing him, or feared repeating her past. She said, "The day your father left, I felt relieved, and ashamed. I told myself it was because I hadn't tried hard enough. And when Lucas showed the same traits, I thought, if I tried harder with him, maybe I could prevent everything that went wrong before." I realized then, her favoritism wasn't love. It was trauma. I asked quietly, so you favored Lucas, so he wouldn't leave you? Mom nodded it slow, guilty. I didn't mean to make you feel pushed aside. I just didn't want to lose him. And there it was, the truth that hurt more than any explanation I ever imagined. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing him. After Mom told me everything, we sat in silence for a long time. But it wasn't a sharp or angry silence, it was the kind you sit in when the truth has settled and you finally see things clearly. I knew I had to set a boundary. Not to punish Mom. Not to punish Lucas. But to protect whatever peace I had left. I poured us both some water, sat down, and said calmly, you can stay here for a while. But I need to set some ground rules. Mom looked nervous. I'm not paying Lucas's debts. I'm not stepping in for you. And I'm not taking on his problems. Mom opened her mouth, probably to defend Lucas, but I gently stopped her. I've had to be the strong one my entire life. I'm finally strong enough to say no. She lowered her eyes but didn't argue. The next day, Lucas called. His name on my screen used to make me tense. This time, I picked up without fear. Mom's at your place? Put her on. She needs space. Respect that. Lucas laughed bitterly. You're turning her against me? No. But if she's scared of you, she has the right to leave. He paused. Then, as expected, you know I'm struggling. You could help. Just a little, no one word. Enough to shift the entire dynamic. Not this time. Lucas exploded, you're selfish. You have a good job and a stable life because Mom focused on me. You owe this family. I didn't flinch. I don't owe you anything. And if you think Mom's sacrifices for you are the reason I built a stable life, you should ask yourself why you never did. He hung up. And for the first time, his anger didn't shake me. Later, Mom asked if Lucas had called. I said yes, but didn't go into details. I set boundaries. If he's angry, that's his issue. Mom nodded slowly. You did the right thing. Lucas has to handle his own life. It wasn't a dramatic change. But it was the first time Mom didn't blame me for standing my ground. That afternoon, I helped her find low-cost housing options and a part-time position she could apply for. She didn't resist. Not this time. It was the quietest form of revenge, not harming anyone, just refusing to carry what never belonged to me. The days that followed were quieter than I expected. There were no arguments, no emotional storms, just a calm, steady routine. Mom stayed in the living room. I went to work as usual. Our conversations were short but not strained. Without expectations weighing on us, we existed more easily under the same roof. One evening, Mom put her phone down and said softly, I found a small room. Her voice didn't sound defeated, just grounded, like someone finally accepting that her life has to be her own. I asked if she needed help moving. She shook her head, I can manage. For the first time, she didn't look to me as her rescuer. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty letting her handle her own responsibilities. Lucas never called again. No apologies, no updates. I didn't expect them. I didn't even want them. His absence wasn't threatening anymore, it was simply distance, the kind we should have had years ago. The morning Mom moved out, she stood at the door with her suitcase, the same one she arrived with, but she looked different. Her shoulders less tense, her voice steadier. Thank you, for not pushing me away, but also for not letting me rely on you too much, she said. I think I need to learn how to live without centering my life around anyone. I nodded. No big speech, no dramatic hug. Just understanding. That night, my apartment was quiet again, really quiet. Not the kind of quiet that carries fear or tension, but the kind that feels like a clean page. I didn't feel obligated to take care of anyone. I didn't feel overshadowed or sidelined. I just sat at my table, drinking water, realizing that for the first time, the life around me truly belonged to me. And in that silence, something shifted inside me, not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that felt honest. I no longer felt required to hold myself together just to keep everyone else from falling apart. The old pressure to be the strong one, the reliable one, the person who stepped in whenever things went wrong, none of it sat on my shoulders anymore. That role belonged to a version of me that had been shaped by fear, expectation, and habit, not by choice. What was theirs stayed with them. What was mine finally returned to me. And for the first time in my life, I could breathe without feeling like someone's last line of defense. I closed the window, turned on the kitchen light, and cooked myself a simple dinner, not for anyone else, not to keep the peace, but just for me. And that was the quietest ending, but somehow also the strongest one I've ever had.